You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
Okay. Welcome back to our second part of our show, Ask the Master Auto Technician. Like I said earlier, this is Wednesday morning show, so if you want to join me for a rotary, give us a call at 850-763-0555. Breakfast is on me at at Panama City Country Club, located in Lynn Haven, from 7 to 8 o'clock. But I got Karen Shoen calling all the way from Greenwood, Florida, which is in Jackson County. She's up there on her little chicken farm. Is it a chicken farm or I don't know what kind of farm y'all have.
Actually, it's a blueberry farm.
A blueberry. I knew it was a farm of some sort.
Yeah.
And how many types of blueberries do y'all have? Just one type or two types?
I never even knew there were so many different types of blueberries.
I didn't either. My wife told me, she says, you have to have two types of blueberries to make one blueberry. I went, really? I didn't know that.
Well, she's absolutely right, because you need to have multiple plants so that they can pollinate each other. But there are so many different varieties. I never knew that.
I didn't know there were either. Great big ones, little small ones.
Yeah, there's the great big ones. And the other thing is you have to be careful about where you live because they grow differently in different types of weather.
Well,
whether it's hot or whether it's cold, you have to know, the type for where you are, where you live. Otherwise, you could be putting in the wrong ones, which we did the first time.
Oh, no.
And you don't get anything because you're in the wrong zone.
I bet you have to also worry about every bird in the neighborhood coming and visiting your plant.
Well, we would, except our blueberries are in a cage.
That's what I was going to say. That's the only way my wife's been able to keep her blueberries is she has to have them caged. They're prisoners.
We made a cage with stakes and deer netting. And this way the birds are very funny. When we first put out the blueberries, the birds all hovel around, and you can hear them squawking, and they're real excited. Oh, my goodness. And then when we put up the cage, you could hear them sitting there screaming at us, screaming at Frank, how dare you put a cage around the food.
Well, that's right. At least they don't get to go to a grocery store like we do. That's the closest thing to a grocery store they have is your backyard, probably. But that's the way it is. We're more fortunate because we're able to do things like that. They don't have that, but they have to make do with what they have. And one of the things that we need to make sure of is the biggest thing that I see happening probably in the next few years is the price of food getting so outrageous since we're on this little segue here. My wife was explaining to me the other day she feels like food has almost doubled in the last 20 years as far as price.
Right. She's right because when you consider the size of the packages, and it's really horrifying, horrifying, whatever word you want to use when you're making a recipe. And you realize that the size of the packages are so small it now takes you twice to make a recipe that we would used to make.
Well, you don't
because the packaging sizes are so different.
You don't buy a pound of coffee anymore. You buy what do you buy? 12 ounces, 14 ounces.
12 ounces.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. And
sugar's the same way.
Yeah.
You don't buy 5 pounds of sugar. Yeah, you buy 4 pounds of sugar. They sell you 4 pounds of sugar for the same price that you sell you 5 pounds for.
Exactly. And that's how they tell you that there's no inflation. Right. Give me a break. That doesn't work. Well, if we put that together with what went on yesterday.
What happened yesterday?
This was a very sad day for American justice.
Well, you're talking about the Mrs. Clinton. I had a lot of people sit there and go, well, they're going to press charges against her. I said, you don't understand how it works. They will not do that. They're not, because there's two sets of rules out there. A set of rules for you and I, and another set of rules for them. And it seems to be that way, Karen, or is it just me being a little jaded that it seems like the rules don't apply?
No, I feel that way also. And after I see what's going on and I interact with so many people that have been wrong, the system is rigged. It's not just Clinton, it's for a lot of things as well. We had a legislature 2 years ago that signed a bill, HB 87, that gave the banks carte blanche to push the people into foreclosure without proving anything. And this was our Florida legislature who's supposed to be protecting we the people?
I think he's protecting his reelection committee.
Yes.
That's what he was protecting. This is the thing that it seems like last night I was at a Bay Patriots meeting, and Ken Secura was talking about how people will they'll run on the campaign of conservative this, conservative that, and they talk all the rhetoric, and they get into office, and then they become progressives or just downright liberals. And we've seen this more than once here in Bay County. I'm sure you've seen it as well. People want to run. They run on the campaign of being conservative and following the Constitution, but when they get into office, unless they want to be delegated to some obscure desk or some obscure committee, they just get in lockstep and do what the party bosses tell them to do. And that just seems to be the biggest problem we actually see here in local government. We see this in state government. We see this in national government. And I don't know what the answer is.
The answer is to get people like yourself elected to office that actually will take the time to read a law, will take the time to understand, might analyze and say, oh, if we put this law in place, what might be the consequences 5 years down the road? How is that going to affect the people? We don't have legislators that do that either.
No,
So-
you're right about that. Now, we've talked about this before about grants. I don't understand what this affinity is towards grants, but apparently everybody thinks that grants are nothing more than free money. But
Well, the way they look at it, James, is that this is the community, the state, the city, the county, whatever, they pay an exorbitant amount of taxes.
Right.
So they look at grants as we're getting back the money that we gave the government, so they consider it as free money when it's really their own money.
Well, I know they don't have to pay it back normally because it's a grant, but the problem they got is there's usually strings attached. There's normally,
Oh, yes.
that's what I'm
And-
talking about. There's normally like the sustained development, those little hidden words in there that say, if you put this in, and you've got to make sure if you're going to build this right here, we're going to give you this money, you've got to figure out in the next 10 years how to put in, say, stormwater runoff. And a lot of times that gets more costly than if we had just not taken the grant and left it alone. And now you've got to build the infrastructure to go with what you've taken the grant money in, and you haven't saved any money. You haven't made any money. Matter of fact, you've gone further in debt because you're buying something you really don't need.
And that's what I've been asking the local legislators. If you take this grant, how much is it going to cost us? And they look at me like, it's not going to cost us anything. Really? Well, if HUD comes in and let's say they view Washington County or they view Jackson County as now it's an annex of Dothan or it's an annex or it's a suburb of Panama City, and they'll count the demographics between the whole total area.
Right.
And then because you have signed away your rights for planning and zoning, and in that wording you have agreed to follow HUD policy, then HUD can come in and they will take your planning and your plans and replan and rezone. And you have no say in that.
It does make you wonder, like, why do we do this if we're going to lose our power, our sovereignty? Why are we giving it away? But we see this happening in Congress. They do it every day.
I don't think they realize that. I really don't think they
You don't think they do?
I don't think they get it. And that was very evident to me when I asked a group of people that were running for commissioners, and the current commissioner was there. And I asked the question, and he said, I asked the question about water. And he said, we have no power to handle that. You have to go and talk to the water management district. And I said, I didn't elect the water management district.
It's the unelected bureaucracy that we have out
right.
there. That is something that is what we end up doing. We end up electing people, and they end up having, once they get into office, then of course they pass these laws that make these bureaucracies, and these bureaucracies or these bureaucrats are the people that have not been elected to office that end up telling you and I how to live our lives. Kind of like what happened in Brussels over there to Brexit. People in England got tired of people in Brussels telling them how to live their lives. And that's what's happening here in America. Maybe we're going to have a floor exit here. Maybe we start.
Certainly. I think that would be wonderful. They're thinking about having a Tex exit.
Well, I've heard all these rumors. And you know what happened the last time we had a Southern exit back in 1861?
That's right.
It wasn't. That didn't turn out real hot.
Nothing is more evidence of what you just said than what happened yesterday.
Yes.
Comey was appointed by Clinton. Does
Yes.
anybody honestly think that he was going to cite her to go to jail? That he was going to say, we're going to investigate her?
Well,
He was appointed by Bill Clinton. That whole charade, starting with the snakes on a plane, which was really a cute
movie.
heading that was done
Yeah.
by the New York Post.
Yeah, snakes on a plane. I like that.
Yes.
Makes
We
me-
started with that. But you see a perfect example of what happens when people are appointed and not elected.
yeah, they're on,
And
yeah.
the people have no voice and no say. Although the only thing that Comey did to exonerate himself is that he certainly cited every single incompetent, careless thing that this woman has done over the last 4 years since she was Secretary of State. But to recommend that he's not going to prosecute, and then worse than that, to say that, well, others might be put in jail for the same infraction, but not Hillary.
Well, yes, it's kind of like, look, in Animal Farm, George Orwell's Animal Farm, it said all animals are created equal. That was on the wall. But one night someone walked out there and it said all animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Yes.
And this is what we have right
This
now.
is what we have now.
We have people that are more equal than others, and yet, we're going to be, she's up for president, so we get to,
Well, it's going to be the final vote on whether or not she's guilty is going to be the referendum on whether or not she becomes president.
Well, I really don't know what's going to happen, but it does make for an interesting year. It's going to be an interesting election year, that's for sure. Up there, what's happening in America, we've got we actually have a third party out there. A lot of people don't seem to realize, but there is a third party out there. You do have an option for those people that are never Hillary or never Trump. You do have a third party option. It's in the ballot in all 50 states. You have Gary Johnson and Governor Bill Weld, two former governors, two-term former governors that actually know how to delegate and to be part of the process, understanding how you're supposed to lead from the office of governor and be an example of a leader. But we're going to find out what's going to happen in the next few weeks, Karen. I'm really excited to find out about what's going on in your endeavors with the legislator. When do they fire back up again, the legislator?
Oh, they're not going to go into office until January.
January. That's what. So we're safe for another 6 months, then, right?
We are safe, except we have these, as you said, we have these bureaucrats running around telling us what to do, and that's why, folks, it's so important that when you choose, you bet, you make sure you ask the right questions. And the right question is really, who are you going to protect? Me, the citizen, or a bureaucrat who is in office?
Well, right. Yes, you're absolutely right, and that's something I see in local, state, I see that.
Local
yeah, oh, Lord have mercy.
So important.
I have seen
people.
It is
who say no to
amazing.
grants.
It is amazing how many things are off the tax rolls out here that should be on the tax
Yes.
rolls. It is amazing. It's not what you know; it's who you know.
It's who you know. It's who you know and who you lobby, and that's why
That's so
the
true.
local elections to me are more important than a presidential election, because this is where you can face-to-face and eyeball the people that you put in office. And we need people who can say, no, I understand what a grant means, and we're not going to take one. We don't need one.
I'd like that idea. Hey, this is James Morrison along with Anna Marie Morris, Karen Shoen. Thank you for being. We'll talk to you next Wednesday at the same time, and we'll talk to everybody else tomorrow morning. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.
James Auto Center, we fix it right.